Today, we have a nurse of 20 years, Danielle Baker, joining us on Faithful Freedom with Teryn Gregson. She was forced to get the jab so she could work, and now she cannot work because of the injuries that she has sustained. She is on disability and can no longer work. She is going to share her story with us, and we are so grateful for her being a voice for others out there to try and help others. And I just want to give a message of grace before we get started in this interview and let people know that now is a time for grace. Now is a time to extend grace to others. If you yourself got the jab and are feeling, guilty about it, give yourself grace. If you didn't get the jab, if you had that discernment and were able to not do so, give others grace, because we have to move forward together in all of this and find solutions and help people that are in need because of everything that has taken place. But the grace extends to those people, but we do need to hold people accountable. And that's what we're trying to do here at We The Patriots USA, because, so many got this because they didn't know, or because their employers made them get it, just like Danielle Baker and her employer. But because we didn't know, these employers should not have made and mandated people to get these vaccines that we didn't know if they were safe or effective. And they should never force that on anyone, no matter if they do know if it's safe or effective, but they did not know. They shouldn't have forced this on people. And these companies knew that they were not safe or effective. We know that now that these Pfizer documents have been coming out, so they should be held accountable too. But, overall, I want to extend grace to everyone listening to this. But now we're going to dive into our story with Danielle Baker.
Where do we go from here? Because the battle has just begun. As eyes open, we continue to arm ourselves with the truth in all aspects of our lives, asking questions and relentlessly searching for answers, educating ourselves and forging a new path forward. Hear from real people faithfully pursuing freedom. This is Faithful Freedom with Teryn Gregson, presented by We The Patriots USA, a nonprofit 501c3 organization working to preserve and reclaim our God-given inalienable rights.
Danielle, thank you so much for joining us. God bless you for coming on here and sharing our story and sharing your story after everything that you've been through.
Oh, thank you so very much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Before we start at the beginning with what happened to you, kind of give people an update with how you're feeling right now, how you're doing, physically, emotionally, mentally. Give people an update on your status.
That's a loaded question. As far as my health is concerned, I'm been declared completely disabled, so I can't work anymore. I have caregivers that help me, including my husband. Every day's different. I never know what I'm gonna wake up to. Unfortunately, I'm at what they call a maximum medical improvement, so they don't expect me to or have any more improvement medically. I rely on a walker, wheelchair, scooter to be mobile, and most of my time is spent at home. Emotionally taxing.
Yeah.
I have a wonderful support group in my family and in my extended injured family. So that has helped. And also having a purpose, sharing my story, hopefully helping others from the same faith that I came across. Um, it, uh, also helps to have the two kids. They keep us on our toes, per se.
Absolutely. As a mom, I understand that. Kids keeping you on your toes and them giving you a purpose as well. And, you mentioned that extended family of others that you've found that have also suffered injuries from the shot. What's that been like to discover others that have gone through injuries like yourself?
Uh, When I first was injured, they didn't quite know what was going on with me. After doing internet research, I came across Catherine Hewig in the Children's Health Defense and got connected with Bree Dresden, and that began my journey into my family, my extended family of the injured, having somebody that knows what you're going through and the symptoms that you're having that you can't quite explain. You don't have to, because they're going through the same exact thing. I had the privilege of attending a conference in Orlando, and 12 of us shared a house together, most injured, and then some supporters of the injured. And oh, what a wonderful experience that we had. It was a time very cathartic and bonding. So just having them to know anytime I need something, or something health wise comes up, or someone's just having a bad day, means the world to me.
Oh, I can only imagine what it's like to have those people around you. How many people, I'm curious, would you estimate were how many people would you estimate were at that conference that were also injured?
Oh gosh. It's hard to tell because some people aren't public about their
Jeez.
injuries. Um, I don't think it would be overestimating to say that probably close to 200 uh, could have very well been injured. There were people from all over. So I know I met people that I hadn't met before, and the circle just keeps growing.
Yes, unfortunately, right, that circle just keeps growing of those that have been injured. Let's talk about your story. You were a hospice nurse for more than 20 years there in the Midwest, and, now you have people in your home helping you in the same way that you used to help other people. Take us back to, how the coercion began with you and your former employer that you can't work for anymore, because of the injuries you sustained from their mandate. Tell us how all of that coercion started for you.
Um, we work frontline. We began working with um, terminal COVID patients in the first month or two of COVID becoming an outbreak. And we continued to do that in 2020. The end of 2020 is when they began to roll out the shot. I don't even want to call it a vaccine. They rolled that out and offered it to healthcare workers in nursing homes first. I opted not to take it. I have a rudimentary understanding of how medicines are passed through the FDA, even if they are fast tracked and a year or less to develop something and bring it to market and start injecting people is unheard of. And I decided at that time I would take the wait and see option. We were told from our employer at that time that they wouldn't make it mandatory for employment. Should have known better. But as 21 came and the year went forward, the emails would pick up. It started like one a month, started then a couple a month to weekly of emails of how we needed to get it. Education sections, if you call it, meetings, town hall type of things. They weren't getting the response that they wanted from us as far as getting it. And so they picked up the pace and started to put out emails, some of them questioning our moral and ethics, saying that we had a moral obligation to take it to protect our patients who were terminal. And in May of 2020, when they put out an email that said if we didn't have it by July of 2021, then they would take away some of the benefit coverage that they had been providing. If we had gotten COVID, or we had illness because we got the shot, they were providing coverage for our time off because we were front line. And it was expected that we were exposed to it, so we would get it. And they provided that coverage. They announced that that coverage would be taken away at the beginning of July. Along with that, we knew the mandate was coming. They hadn't technically mandated for us to get it, but in no uncertain terms, it was going to be mandated in July, which is what happened. They offered cash incentives all the way up to weekly drawings and $20,000 bonuses for people to get it. When we got the email of the benefit being taken away, my husband and I had a long conversation about it. I loved what I did.
Mhm.
And I had a family, and I carried the insurance, and we couldn't afford it for me to be without my career. And I loved what I did. And so I decided to try to keep the coverage. And I started my series in June of 2021.
Danielle, you are the story of so many people that felt the exact same pressures, that love their job, that love their families, that love their coworkers, and were guilted into this. And as someone who also went through it with my former employer, and I know so many other people, and I've talked to so many people like you, when you're telling me this story, it's so eerie how similar everyone's stories are. It's just like all of these companies, and I come from the world of sports. You're coming from healthcare. We're coming from two very different industries, but yet they were all in lockstep with how the emails slowly started to trickle out, the education, the town halls, and they started to get more and more frequent. Then the guilt trips started happening. Then there were ways that they were taking things away from you slowly. It was like everyone was in lockstep in all of this. And grace to you, grace to everyone else that this happened to. And it's tragic. And so I thank you for sharing your story. So tell us, after you received your doses, what happened?
Um, After my second dose is when I really started to have problems. We looked back and put the pieces together. I had an emergency room visit after my first dose, about 18 days after, with back pain. Felt similar to kidney stones.
Mhm.
And they did some imaging and said that I had pulled a muscle and sent me on my way. I was honestly ignorant at that time to what was causing the issue. Um, After my second dose on June 26th, I had a fall that day. The cartoon a fall. I When I fell, I hurt my shoulder. And again, not relating it at that time. My husband is an occupational therapist, and he looked at it, and after a day of it not getting better, um, we went to the emergency department. Um, by that time, the pain had spread up into my face and down into my arm, the same arm that I had the shot in. And I remember my husband helping me onto the gurney, and the pain was disproportionate to what was going on. It was a lot worse than I guess what I think it should have been.
For a
And,
fall. Yeah, it hurt a lot worse than just with you falling. Yeah. Mhm.
and it was different.
Mhm.
The fact that it went up into my face, tingling and numbness was alarming.
Mhm.
Um, when we went into the emergency room and the physician's assistant came in, I remember one of the first questions I asked him was, could it be from the injection that I had had the day before? Of course, that answer was no. And he sent me and had some imaging of my shoulder done, said everything was okay, and I was out of there within 30 minutes.
30
It didn't
minutes.
get better. Um, I was getting worse the next day and we went to an ortho outpatient clinic, and that doctor actually told us that I had a separation in my joint in my shoulder and put me in a sling, but was worried because of the degree of symptoms that I was having. Suggested I go back to the ER, do a different ER, and have imaging of my neck to make sure that it was okay. We did that, followed through with that, and they did a CT scan, and that came back okay for a CT scan. So at that point, we still had trust and thought we were just dealing with a shoulder injury. Over the next 2.5 weeks, there was numbness and tingling down into my arm and pain. And on, I think it was day 18 to 20 after the second dose, we were riding in the car on the way home, and I developed extremely bad back pain in the middle of my shoulders. And the numbness and the tingling went from my right arm down into my right leg, over into my left, and up into my left arm. And over a period of 4 days, I went from my normal to not really being able to walk. And I refused to go to the ER because I had been so many times. And the ortho doctor sent me to an ortho spine doctor who ordered an MRI outpatient. I had that done the next week, and that's when I found out that I had a demyelination in my spinal cord, C3 through C7, I believe. And I went, talked with the family member who worked in a neurologist office, and they sent me to emergency room, and I was admitted for diagnosis of transverse myelitis, which is basically my body attacked my spinal cord because of the shot.
Danielle, I'm so sorry that that happened to you. And I'm so sorry that you went through that. And I can tell just the pain that that memory brings back to you. Um, were you at that point going through any, having fogginess in your brain, any neurological issues at that point, or was it strictly, your spine and your body?
I had some fatigue and brain fog that started after I had contracted COVID in December of 2020. But the symptoms really started enhancing after I had the numbness and tingling in the pain. Uh, I had issues with my memory and recall, um, but I didn't have any issues with my speech at that time, or with my cognition at that time. One of the fun things about this is that I get recurring flares. I oh, the word akin it to MS. How it comes and goes. My symptoms get worse, and they're at a baseline, and then they can get worse. During one of these attacks, that it got worse in October, I developed issues that really started to enhance the cognition and the speech and those deficits.
And whenever you were, going through these appointments and getting these diagnoses, did your doctors ever talk to you about, what they thought might be causing it? Did they ever relate it to the shots?
So when we were in the emergency room after my MRI, the emergency room doctor sat down with us, came into the room, and he is the one that had related it completely for us. He as well put that in our medical record. He told us that his sister helped to develop the mRNA technology years ago, and that it was never met for this, and that he was sorry that it happened to us. So,
Wow. That is a, that God put him in your path and that he had known that and had that connection.
absolutely. They have, ever since that visit, meaning my neurologist, has always connected it to the vaccine.
Mhm.
The way that he explained it to us was that I probably had a form of long COVID, but not enough that it impaired my day-to-day living. Um, I was tired and had some fogginess, but I was still able to work and care for my family and hold my regular activities. Um, when I got the shot, it overtook my immune system, and that's what ultimately caused what we see today.
Oh, yes. Well, I'm sorry that that happened to you. When did it, and so from that point forward, did you not, were you able to return to work at all, or were you out of work from that point forward? Yeah.
I on the 26th, it was a Saturday. That Monday I didn't go back because of my fall, and I hadn't um, been able to work since.
Has your employer, what have they said to you, your former employer?
Um, they uh, I have a case right now in workers compensation court. They deny any fault.
Wow. Wow. Well, I hope that, and we'll be praying for your case, for that workers' comp case. And I pray too, because of the rulings that we've had in other healthcare workers cases, where they've given people their jobs back after these mandates, they've given them back pay. I mean, none of that even compares to having a life-changing health scenario after all of that. That doesn't, the money doesn't make up for it. The $20,000 drawings that they were giving for you guys, none of that's worth it. And so I pray that not only will you get the justice that you deserve, but that it will help other people as well and help set precedent for others. I also want to talk briefly, before we wrap up here, about your experience in reporting to the VAERS system, what had happened to you and how you had, tried to contact the FDA explaining your situation. Tell us then, after you filed your report, some fishy things that you noticed.
Very fishy things. I uh, I even in nursing, I didn't have any um, understanding of the VAERS system. We didn't deal with it. We
Mhm.
gave flu shots and never had to report on anything. After the doctor confirmed it was indeed shot related, I learned through the internet that of the VAERS system and the reporting. So I didn't know that a report was made on my behalf from the hospital. I guessed that it wasn't and went into the system and didn't find one. Um, I then I think it was in August, about I went and filed my own report along with that. I emailed MedWatch um, with the FDA and let them know of my reaction. Um, I didn't go back until I was prompted um, by Bree Dresden. They were going and looking at reports and pulling some data, and I went in to pull my report, and it is gone. It's not there. Never record, no existence of it. Never got any other than from the FDA. We received it. I didn't get any follow up from them either. Uh, Speculation, but it's awfully odd that I had a reaction of transverse myelitis which hasn't been acknowledged as a side effect by the FDA. It's a known side effect of other vaccinations, and many injured have had the same diagnosis, and neurological issues similar to transverse myelitis. Um, Awfully coincidental that my report is gone and I had alerted them of my incident.
That
I,
is, it's very
I
fishy.
very much so. I have the opportunity on Thursday to speak to the FDA. I was chosen through their lottery system to have a speaking opportunity for their committee on Thursday. So I plan on maybe saying something about that in my testimony.
Wow. Well, we'll also be praying for you for that, and hope for the best with all of that. And then they will put your report back in the system because it needs to be in there. And, we had a young woman around this time last year on the podcast who had very similar diagnosis as you, very similar symptoms as you. She was in her early 20s in London going through all of this. And most of the doctors that this time last year were telling her that it was in her head and were, just completely blowing her off. And so I know, like you said, I've interviewed people that have had the same thing. So it's out there. And yes, we hope for the best for you. We are so sorry that all of this has happened to you, but we are grateful that you've shared your story because it's important. People need to know that this has happened. So hopefully they won't continue to do this to themselves and to others. How can we help you, and how can we come alongside you and in your workers' comp case and your FDA hearing that you have, or anything else that you are doing?
I'm sharing my story is really important to me. Um, we're financially devastated, and we didn't bring the case to workers' comp until almost right at my filing deadline. Um, we felt it probably isn't going to be successful, so there wasn't really a financial benefit for us, but it was important to try to trailblaze. Um, if we can set a precedence that allows other people to seek justice and not be in the situation we are. That's what we want. It's too late for me. The damage is done, and it's not reversible. And yeah, financially, it's been very disruptive. I do have a gift to go. That if you would like to put up, that would be helpful. This story and helping others to not have the same fate. That's the most important.
Absolutely. We will link your Give Send Go here in the description of the podcast, whether you're watching it on Rumble, listening to it on the various podcast platforms. We'll link that so people can help to support you, Danielle, because I hope that they prayerfully decide to give. Even just a little bit will help you guys out. I think that so many people have been impacted from this, whether they were fired from their job, whether they have, suffered injuries because of it, or are having to file cases. It is so expensive to seek justice in this country right now for what has happened. So we pray that people will give to you, and that's something that we here at We The Patriots USA are doing as well, is trying to help people to seek justice. And so we appreciate everything that you're doing. We're going to also shower you with prayer as well,
Oh,
and pray for you and your whole family, because that's the other thing. It's not just individuals, it's entire families that have been impacted by all of this. And so God bless you all, and keep us updated with what happens with the FDA and your case, and we'll let everybody know.
I really appreciate it. We've had some donors on our Gives and Go already, but we have to pay out of pocket for everything. Just carrying insurance is $18,000 a year that we don't have. So we appreciate it, and the prayers are so welcome. Our kids have really been impacted by it, and I hope we are setting an example for them, but them especially. Prayers, please.
Absolutely. Prayers for your children. Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much, Danielle.
Thank you.